Hi, welcome. On this video, it's part of my series called Flipping the Script. Going to be providing insight by way, again, of another video put out by Cesar Millan. This one is his interaction with the dog named Shadow. And what is going to make this breakdown video a little interesting is in that it's already been broken down by a force-free dog trainer. So you're going to see some subtitles as I play this video. So I'm going to be providing insight not only in terms of Cesar Millan, like I did through prior video, which I encourage you to watch, Showdown with Holly, in terms of Cesar Millan getting bitten, but again, talking about a intentional interaction-based method, core ingredients I talk about, influence and control, in terms of being reconciled through a intentional interaction based approach, which again provides clarity, but also in terms of information, okay, to avoid situations where people get blindsided, get bitten. And that video I did on holidays is kind of an example of assuming in terms of body language that dogs can look submissive. But that's problematic. We get into what I call the 1% dogs that can look relaxed at times, and this is the deceptive nature of appearances by way of control. Control can offer up the appearance of a balanced dog, and again, this is where being attached to a leash at times is very helpful when it comes to those core ingredients revealing a dog's state of mind, so that again you're able to get the right information as you're interacting with dogs that have gained that level of control in the relationship. Now here again, another video, again in terms of Cesar. Now Cesar Millan, I talk about how he does bring those core ingredients in, influence and control. He does power play it. Again, so I talked about the dog daddy. I did a couple of videos with the dog daddy's method. But again, there's issues, okay? And some of those issues relate to, and you'll see here, okay, things escalating, in terms of a, trainer-dog interaction. And again, this is where I would encourage any trainers watching my videos is to kind of take note. I highly recommend that when you know that a dog has gained a high level of control in the relationship with the owner, is really focus in on processing change directly through the owner, okay, to avoid situations where things are going to escalate. Because even in terms of just being able to manipulate, okay, control that way, that keeps things leveled down, okay. So here you're going to see similar situation develop, but again, at the same time, you'll see how again, force-free trainers will attempt to exploit the optics, okay, of certain situations. You see this with Zach George versus the dog daddy. I believe Zach George is being very selective in how he, chose to kind of try to go after the dog daddy to exploit the optics. And so understand that this is what's happening in the dog training world. You see a lot of force-free trainers trying to try to take advantage of situations for their own agenda. And I talk about why is it force-free is not the solution. Okay, it's quite opposite. But again, in terms of understanding, in terms of what a process is, I talk about that in terms of yes, influence is necessary to reverse course. But again, it's how it's brought in through a process with the spotlight on the role of the owner the right way. Okay, so that's very important. So it's about maximizing the level of agreeableness the right way, not through bribery. Okay, I talk about that. Again, you can gain agreeableness through those themes I talk about: bribery, accommodation, negotiation. Doesn't mean whatsoever the relationship's getting better. Okay, this is the deceptive nature of appearances. This is what the force-free movement, that's their foundation. And so you want to bring those core ingredients in the right way, following path of a power play, but again, through the interactions themselves with how they come together, is to maximize agreeableness while at the same time keeping the level of challenge at the lowest possible level so it's manageable, okay, without people getting bitten. So again, I'm going to play some of this video. Again, this is Cesar Millan interacting with Shadow. And again, I'll be also responding to some of the narrative, okay, the subtitles on here from a force-free trainer.
Cesar enlists the aid of a neighbor by having her wait with one of the dogs that provokes a violent reaction from Shadow.
So again, this is similar to, okay, if you watch the video with Cesar Millan and Holly, the food dish, he jumps right in there. Okay, he's like, he's got the food dish. He's wants to take control, kind of show how it's done. But again, the problem with that is based again on, on the fact that he thinks different, okay, than the owner. Again, that's what I talk about when you get this level of control happening in the relationship with a dog. It's better again to process this, okay, go into kind of coaching mode. The process is through the owner, okay, get the core ingredients happening, get through, again, you'll see how, even if I'm starting to set up, moving a little bit, the walk, okay, the one-step method, because it's a type of conversation. It does turn into a type of power play. But again, by processing, change to the owner, because here's the thing, is that's where it all started at the first place. Okay, so the focus needs to come on the relationship that way. Okay, the owner needs to be brought into the spotlight pretty fast, and then in terms of keeping things leveled out, that's going to be helpful because the dogs thinks that they know they have control through the owner, so they're going to be agreeable more so than say a trainer stepping in, of course for the wrong reasons, but we use that. Okay, that's a way to manipulate control to the advantage of the relationship, okay, to the owner. So in this case, you're not, exploiting isn't a bad thing, okay, you're doing things smart. Okay, so here, once again, okay, Cesar's like jumping in, taking control with interacting with Shadow, and then he's bringing this dog right out, which is again going to send things up into a high level of challenge, because again, you have to know, again, there's a smart way to do stuff. You want to keep things, really leveled out, and that happens through the owner, because the owner can look at this, and this is the issue about clarity too, is that you're not going to get good clarity, because if a dog goes into high challenge, for the method to transfer over, for people to be able to see and understand, to be able to process things properly in terms of how they interact, it's hard to do when the dog's going into high challenge based off of, say, the trainer jumping in. Because here's the thing, dogs, the type of connection they share with us, at the social level, that's why people get bitten very fast before you even move forward. Okay, they're really able to read kind of the roadmap of your mind, so to speak. And so just even before you start to express any level of control for a dog that's holding a high level of control, it's going to trigger off. And people wonder why dogs will bite very quickly certain people. That's the reason. And so therefore, again, you want to always process this through the owner. Now, here, again, the subtitle, Cesar admits to provoking the dog's aggression. You left the geo here just for, I laugh at this because, you get a lot of these, especially these force-free people, they want to point out spelling errors very quickly rather than the truth as to what is actually being expressed. Okay, they get caught up in the stuff because it's, it is about trying to, it's like a power play with, certain individuals too, when you're starting to point things out. Now, so he's setting the dog up by failure, bringing the situation that is unable to handle yet. Well, again, understand that you get this thing about, and pay attention as we go along. I talk about the inability for those who align with this superficial idea, where those core ingredients are not part of the process, and I talk about bribery, right? That's the path they follow. They're not able to reconcile reactions to actually work through a relationship problem. Okay, they get caught up in appearances, and they're looking to gain some sort of agreeableness with the dog, but they're doing it the wrong way. Okay, they're using treats. It's the themes of bribery, accommodation, negotiation. It's no different than, say, I talk about the parenting example. Once a child becomes selfish, child's going to have a really bad attitude and he'll be very disagreeable, okay, to certain, demands or certain expectations. And it'd be like how you want to see the force free type of individual. They're like the parent who's like terrified of any sort of, confrontation with the child, even though they're the adult, right? And so they're always trying to find a way to negotiate, to appease. Then it becomes, enabling, to calm waters. Like they don't, and then that parenting style, through the permissive parenting style, the consequences of that, like the child doesn't improve, actually gets worse because like they're the parent, right? So they don't want any sort of ruffled feathers, and that's how you want to see this. This is no different. But again, the real problem never gets fixed. Okay, understand that. Like it's no accident that those who engage this way in terms of dogs as social animals, you're looking at outcomes. You'll see it over and over again. The dogs get the blame, uh, the hypocrisy of it. They'll have dogs. These force-free people have dogs that are totally out of control, and they're out there. They got lots to say on social media. Total hypocrisy. They have dogs that are absolutely, a nightmare. I've seen it. Okay, up close and personal, and they're out there giving advice for the same things that they can't even resolve. But this is the problem. Okay, understand that it's so common for this. So they'll really target people like Cesar Millan, and because they're trying to take advantage of all the confusion, okay, for their own agenda.
Right there, yeah. He also asks Alex and Alan to observe from a distance so their energy doesn't influence Shadow's behavior.
So again, here you talk about energy. It is about relationship, and that's true to a certain degree for sure. But it's about empowerment. So that connection of that will empower the dog, but it'll set up this type of contrast too. It's like that's why dogs will. If your dog goes from one individual that's been empowering and enabling, the dog through a lot of emotion, and then someone else takes the dog and starts to express a certain level of control, the dog will go up into really high challenge. Okay, that's no accident. So right here, Shadow's starting to go up into challenge mode here. Now the caption here, I'm talking about threshold, counter conditioning. I talk about counter conditioning. So counter conditioning, within the dog training world, typically is about, say, using treats, okay, to get a dog to be agreeable, okay, to certain people, certain situations. But the whole thing with agreeableness, again, has to be follow the right path, okay? It's about relationship, it's context. And so when you follow those themes, again, bribery, accommodation, negotiation, it's no different than how you want to see counter conditioning, how its application in the dog training world. Again, dogs are social animals. It's no different than the selfish child, where a parent is, they're engaging in negotiation. Okay, it's like, well, um, you know, if you get along or share with your peers, you get the brand new Xbox game after you, um, interact at a certain level if you're well behaved. And so what it sets up this whole appearance problem that certain moments, that must mean a better relationship. Okay, but understand this is about context. So not it doesn't mean that at all. This is why even if you go on the social media, a lot of these especially the force-free trainers, there's a reason why their video content look like infomercials. Okay, you're not going to see kind of a full transparency. You'll see these little snapshots at certain moments. They're trying to package those up as trying to market them as if the relationship's getting better, and it's not. Okay, and people buy into it because understand if you're highly emotionally connected with your dog, you have a certain idea about training. You'll be drawn towards this ideology because it plays into people's emotions that way. But it's a bad deal. Understand it'll look good, and just be aware of that. Dogs will be moving around for treats and stuff, doing a great sit, and then come out the other side, you're like in worse shape because the relationship hasn't actually getting better. The dog is just moving around because they're getting what they want. Okay, those core ingredients, they have to come into the process the right way.
Hey,
So again, Caesar has good leash skills. Now here, really important that when you're interacting with a dog, I talk about clarity with how everything funnels. Okay, so again, clarity in the sense of always you'll see me how I'm interacting with dogs. They're coming into alignment at my left side. Doesn't matter if you're left or right side, but it's important that the dog understands intent. Okay, so kind of like there's like a funneling, as I call it. It's not just erratic where it's like even if dog is going into high challenge, of course you want to control that. So you let a dog spin out to a certain level, but you're basically their movements. They're the ones doing it, but then the end point is that they eventually come back into alignment. Okay, through and again, so the moments of agreeableness, will be happening. But again, when you get this type of thing happening where a dog is going into high challenge, it represents it's better to process relationship change directly through that owner. Okay, because it's just going to be too much. I mean, because there's a stress load on the dog already, just the fact that they have a high level of control, and so it's not going to take much for them to trigger off. So, but again, here you see Caesar trying to navigate this dog here.
white wolf, white fawn. Hey,
Now here it's going to be too some question here in a minute about the collar itself. It's like the collar that's on this dog is too much. But I understand it's not so much about the collars, okay? It's about the fact that it's a power play, and this isn't being processed through the owner. So this dog, even if the dog was on a standard collar, okay, regular collar, this dog would still trigger off. Okay, because in fact they're going to switch the collars out, but this dog's still going to go into high challenge. So it's not so much about the collar, that has very little to do with it. Okay, this is about the relationship. Okay, this is about the fact this dog's has a high level of control, and Caesar, who is taking intentional control, bringing this dog under level of control, which hasn't been happening with the relationship with the owners clearly, and expressing influence over this dog. This dog is going into a high level. I see the tail wagging at the same time. It's like a runner's high. Endorphins kicking off. This dog is what I call the 1 percentile dog. This dog has a high need level.
right there.
So here's because it says here is wearing a prong collar, which Caesar is repeatedly pulling, adding pain. Now this is where you see these words coming up, okay, and always, okay, with these force-free individuals. Talk about pain. Pay attention because that's very common by way of these individuals that want to incite, inflame. That they don't. Nothing's in proper context. They look at the reactions of dogs, like the body language of dogs, and they themselves are like they're projecting into the relationship. That'd be no different than, again, a parent who's dealing with a very selfish child, and they're so caught up in how the child's reacting to everything that they can't move through anything. Okay, they're just caught up like a hamster spinning the wheel. They can't get anything resolved, and this is what happens, right? Because it's a power play, and so this is the same thing. So you see this type of language popping up all the time with these individuals.
Stay right there, man. Hey.
So right here, same thing. Caesar, keeping this dog at bay. Now, again, read this. Reaction dog is scared, and again, see, scared. This has nothing to do with scared, okay? This is everything to do with challenge. Okay, and this is where you can get this thing about the stress loads on dogs, where you see dogs through the stress, especially with younger dogs, you'll see them shake. The stress loads are so high, especially with younger dogs, because with younger dogs, especially, to be holding a certain level of control in the relationship, it brings even more stress onto them. But again, the problem with the reactions of dogs when you get that shakiness and everything going on, for someone that has caused the problem in the first place through high level of emotional connection, all the petting, all those things going on, they're going to project higher. Okay, and this is why certain people can never get out of it, because the ability to fix it has to come through leadership. Okay, it's got to come through influence and control. Those things have to start to be brought into the relationship. It's very difficult if someone's really highly emotional with because their first reaction is going to be more emotion, more empathy, and that's through nature. That's the wrong way to go. Okay, dogs are different that way, so it sends people in this type of loop they can't get out of. You see right here. So we talk about Cesar is not taught the dog an alternate behavior. So whenever you're teaching and learning, I understand this plays into bribery. Okay, because yeah, you can pull some treats out right now, and this is where you get into some of these narratives where even some of the balanced dog trainers like rewarding bad behavior to create good behavior, and it'd be like pulling a child, like the parent example would be like a child mouthing off at a parent, and the parent pulls suddenly out of nowhere pulls a chocolate bar, out of their back pocket and starts to wave it around in front, and the child focuses on the chocolate bar, right? And they're like, "That's great," create a moment of calmness, and no, you haven't fixed anything. Okay, you're just engaging in bribery, and trying to pass that off as change. You may have gotten out of a situation, such as here, you pull a handful of treats out of your pocket and try to bribe this dog, but the dog, you're never going to fix it. Do you understand? Like the core ingredients have to come in. It has to take the path of a power play, and that obviously never happened through the owners. And so, but again, this is the problem. It's like, people, and then the blame shifting begins. This is why all these dogs never get fixed, end up in shelters, end up being euthanized, because even through the force-free movement, that's so common. Or you're locked into a management situation where you're never going to fix anything. Okay, till something bad happens, and then you feel like you're blindsided. So again, talk about the prong collar. Now again, a prong collar certainly isn't the best tool to have. I don't advocate prong collars, only because the device itself, the dog will respond to the device, but not to the owner. Okay, understand it's about control and influence, how that aligns through through the leash. Usually I'll use just a flat standard collar, and or it's called a choke chain. But it's not about choking dogs. Okay, understand, and this is the problem with the reaction part of it, is even through say a normal just standard collar, dog's going to trigger off going to high reaction just from the fact that they have a high level of control going on in the relationship, and influence and control part of the equation. So that and the dogs will have such a reaction physiologically, because understand it's mind and body. So what you have is a choking reactions that can be really extreme, and then you're trying to and just pay attention, because this happens a lot. Then you're first again response is empathy. You'll be looking at the collar, and of course you should check the collar out, but in most situations it's nothing to do with the collar. Okay, it's to do with the relationship. And so again, those are one of the things, because the dog's mind is having a reaction. There's high stress on the dog, and it's causing that type of physiological reaction. So just be aware. Any trainers out there, be aware, because again, that's something you have to move through. Now there is accommodation. We see dogs at that high level like that. Of course, you have to be aware, and you have to be more intentional, slow things down. You see how I'm working with dogs, but be careful, because you don't want to err on the side of bribery and emotion, because then you'll never get things fixed. So you have to know how to deal with stuff like that. You have to do it in a smart way. And so right here, the force-free way, right, is all about bribery. Understand, it's like this outcry, be like, make this stop. He's abusing this dog. Like you hear all this stuff, abusing the dog. This has nothing to do with abuse. Okay, this has everything to do with this dog has a high level of control in the relationship. Now, the pinch collar, could that be creating a little bit more challenge? Oh, sure, but not to the point where you could say that's all about that. The wrong collars on the dog. Okay, it's like, because here he does switch to another collar, but you're gonna see his dog go in the same level of challenge. Because his dog's tail is wagging at the same time, right? So this whole narrative of fear and pain. Now, endorphins are kicking off, right? This is a power play.
We'd end up using, instead of the prong collar, because the prong collar was escalating the state of mind of Shadow.
So he recognized that prong collar isn't helping, chooses to use a slip lead instead, likely to cause the same amount of stress. See, so here, even the force free, right? There's no, it's always about bribery, like, because, and don't get me wrong, Cesar Millan should switch the collar out to a different collar, choke collar, but even you go to a flat collar, it doesn't matter. This dog is going to go in the challenge. So, but here's the problem: when you deal with these individuals who identify as force free, there's no amount of kind of negotiating with trying to. They just are totally sold out to bribery. So it's always about trying to blame something on, anything but the fact that this dog is it's a control problem, it's a relationship problem that way. And so they don't connect dots properly anyway.
We end up using a very basic approach, which is the leash although when the top and pull up so we can calm him down. Sometimes the tools that you're using might go against what you're trying to accomplish. So it's the same thing we have done in the...
Because right here, because understand, this is about control, like I said, those core ingredients, okay? Cesar's taking control, all right, bring this dog in a level of intentional control and influence, and this is what escalates it, okay? The collars, okay, play very little role in that, okay? And from the force-free side of things, there's no working through any of those reactions anyway. Understand, this is all this is all projection stuff going on.
Pass with pit bulls and Rottweilers and German Shepherds. This one looks a little bit more primal, more like I'm actually working with a wolf, so you see a lot of more gum.
So same thing, read this again. Aggressive dogs not necessarily dominant, okay, caused by fear and inability to cope with stress. See, just ridiculous stuff. So, because here's the thing, you can go read the article from, this goes back to Cesar Millan, article written a long time ago by Mark Dare. But if you read the full article at the end, he tries to pass off aggression. Because understand, especially when you're on the force-free side of things, they can't deal with dogs that have hit that level. They'll write them off. And write it off in the way they say there's something genetically wrong with the dog. See, that's their out. And in that article, if you read that, it comes out very clearly there. They try to say, oh, something, better check for this, and send the dog to the vet. And they try to, because understand that they know their limitations. They just don't want to admit them. And then other trainers who are dealing with aggressive dogs like Cesar, they try to find any way to try to make it look like the trainer's the problem, right?
It sounds horrible and it looks horrible, but he's just in a dominant state, So you just ride the wave or,
Yeah, so dominant control, okay, being expressed, it's manifesting, okay, through how Cesar's interacting with the dog. Everything Cesar's doing is, reasonable, okay, but the dog's having a very unreasonable reaction based on the level of control the dog has gained in the relationship with his owner. Period. That's it.
You pretty much. This is good. This is consummate state. You can give affection to that state.
Now, this is one of the dog daddy moments I talk about, okay, is do not pet, okay, when you're dealing with a dog that has hit the aggressive level, because understand the way you touch and pet, okay, will align with, associated with the relationship through the owners through empowerment. Okay, that's part of the emotional connection. So this can flame things up. And I put a couple of videos out showing just as trainers try to pet on the dog, starts touching, the dog goes into a high challenge. because it's like fire and gasoline. So clarity is even more important when you're dealing with a dog that's gained a high level of control in a relationship. You have to be all in. Okay, all in, providing clarity through influence, control, leadership. You have to remove all the petting and touch this way because again, because that will trigger off the dog. It's like it becomes a problem now. Okay, because it's like the dog's caught in between two worlds. You have to secure the relationship the right way. So this touch part, Cesar does this too. That's some of the confusion. Don't want to be doing that.
Even knowing that
because that will give, because what it will do, because you watch the video I put out, it's interesting, on Zach George doing that. Of course, Zach George is, he's just all emotion anyway, and bribery, but not like Cesar. They're totally different Cesar, but see Zach George coming up to a dog, I showed in the video, and Zach George starts, his first motion starting to pet this dog's in the muzzle. This dog's getting a high level of control. He's petting on his dog, but if you pay attention, you see the dog's head turn like the dog's demanding the pet, right? It's like the dog's trying to tip the scales. The dog's in the muzzle. That's control. Doesn't like that. So what happens is this type of trying to rebalance everything. It's like, so a dog will try to do certain things to gain that emotion that connects because it gives them empowerment. It's like a drug. And so you don't want to be doing that, okay? Because it can set things alight, because then when you start to put a dog under control again, which you're going to see here in a moment, that's going to trigger off even higher, right? Because again, you want to provide clarity the right way.
the prong collar just frustrated Shadow more.
I'll go back here too, because I talk about the petting too. Understand this just shows you. Okay, this is physiological. It's not necessarily at all because the dog needs a drink of water. Okay, and he is under stress for sure. But this whole thing with how the stress comes off a dog, is through, right? Coming through the right process. Core ingredients. That's what's going to take stress off the dog the right way.
The prong collar just frustrated Shadow more and brought him to a higher level of aggression. That was huge.
So have you experienced the behavior you saw before with him? Okay.
So again, you don't want to be doing, you see, if you watch my videos, see how I'm, for a dog that is reactive towards other dogs, you want to do it in a very controlled way. Okay, once you get that owner more secure in the relationship with their dog, okay, the right way, then you will introduce dogs from a distance, but then through influence being proactive, where you're dealing with the dog's level of thinking. Okay, so you're intercept the dog's state of mind, just the dog's expressing control through their thought process, right? Through how they're fixating. You're going to be nudging the dog out of that, but it's very intentional. Now here, watch Cesar will give does a little half kick back, okay, on a dog, and one of the things when he does that is how he does that, the dog, it takes a second or two for the dog to make that association as to coming directly through Cesar. So it does give Cesar a little bit of an advantage because it's like an indirect type of a interruption, okay. But again, based on a dog's level of control, it still can trigger off a dog if it's not done proactively in a way that takes a form of a nudge. Okay, so understand that when you're dealing with dogs that have hit that tipping point level, you have to really be dialed in the right way. You really got to really pay attention to how you're moving and everything, because things are right on the edge. Now, same thing here. You see all the language that, fear of suffocation. Okay. I mean, again, because it's all about when, again, forest-free individuals look at the reaction of dogs. They can't work through anything, right? Because it's like they're in chaos. And so they'll usually suffocating the dog and all this stuff. They're projecting. Okay, so here, nothing to do with suffocation, because everything to do with this dog's, has a high level of control going on. Now you do want to, because he's using a slip lead, you do want to make sure that, when the dog gives, you give. It's very much about making sure that you don't bring it into a level where there has to be an out. Okay, there has to be that adjustment. And now talking about the dog is fighting for his life. I mean, almost like Cesar has, is trying to, kill this dog. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Now you will see Cesar take control. So Cesar put a dog on its side, okay, to help to take control so that he doesn't get bitten. Because again, at this level, you gotta have really good leash skill. But again, the better way is to transfer this dog back to the owners and process the relationship change directly through them. That's always the best way when you deal with a dog that has this level of control.
There you go. Malamutes, the Huskies, the Shepherds, all those guys, they just bite and release, bite and release, bite and release. Every time you release, I got seconds over you. So the more he goes, I'll keep my leash up and just wait. I know what they're capable to do, but that doesn't intimidate me.
So the whole time you pay attention, the dog's tail's wagging the whole time here. And so you're talking about, asphyxiation with the dog, gasping for air. But don't get me wrong, you have to be able to give the dog a little bit of, not a lot of play, but a little bit of slack at certain moments. So here, that's not really happening a lot. So again, that's going to escalate somewhat anyway. But trust me, it's not so much about that as it is this dog's at a really high level. Okay, so here, Cesar going to put this dog on his side to try to create a little bit of control.
That only prepares me.
So yeah, just a high level of intensity, challenge, all those things all playing out. So I'll stop it here. So again, some of the takeaways here is, if you're looking through the force-free lens, if you're looking to be able to work through a relationship, that simply is not going to happen, okay, with dogs, especially dogs at a high level, because they're projecting everything. The dogs, there's certain reactions. They look at the dog's body language. They're taking everything out of context, and those core ingredients are missing anyway. So it's all about bribery, accommodation, negotiation. So, it's never about actually working through a problem. And see it like how you want to see it, would be like a very permissive parent who just is looking at every reaction of a child who's a brat, right? And they just will not engage. It's not about being over the top at all. It's just about, being normal. Okay, it's a parent, normal in the sense of the authoritative parenting style. So, but never be able to fix the problem at all, because within that style itself, that's what happens. You get two parents with different attitudes of parenting. One's authoritative, one's permissive. The parents will go after each other, and the real issue, it changes the whole focus of what the problem really is, because it's just the focus in such a way that the real issue never gets fixed. Okay, so you look at the subtitles of this video, all the language in there and stuff, you see that all happening. Issues with Cesar, yeah, I mean a pinch collar is definitely not the way to go. That's going to escalate things to a degree. Then he goes to the pressure slip lead, choke chain like, and there's moments there where you got to draw into setting up certain moments, especially with a dog like this, that you're able to do it in such a way. If you see me how I'm interacting with dogs, there has to be a release point. Okay, there has to be a point where you're doing away with a dog. You have to take your time, but here's the thing: you deal with dogs at a really really high level like this, then you need to highly recommend you go process directly through the dog owner. Okay, if that's not possible, say it's a situation where somebody was taken on a board and train, you got to be really just slow it right down. You're not going to be, you won't see me out in the street like hour one going towards other dogs. I mean, that's just not something you want to be doing. So here, I would be doing all this anyway. Because again, you want to keep the level of challenge down as low as possible. So again, force-free movement, absolutely not. Cesar, Millan, I talk about there's definitely some issues there for sure. I point all those out. But in terms of, again, of the right way to go, well, again, the foundation, a intentional interaction-based method. But again, processing change when you get to this level directly through the dog owner. Thanks for watching.